What's up, bosses? Welcome to About Her Business, the podcast where we leave all the gossip at the door and get straight down to business. I'm your host, Jonte, and today we have chef, host, and culinary director of the Zest Supper Club, Miss Zaria Elaine Stott Turner. Now, Miss Stott Turner dishes are based on her global living experiences and working inside of a few DMV restaurants. She now hosts supper club events with her husband, bringing together food, community, and service. And she's bringing all the sauce or what she means business. So, ladies, grab those cups and those notepads and let's get down to it. The meeting is now in session. Welcome, Miss Stott Turner.
Hi, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dante. Glad to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here. Okay, let's get into it because I'm super excited about today. I love food. Everybody loves food. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Can you share with our audience a little bit about your journey and what originally inspired you to get into the culinary world?
Sure, absolutely. It all started with my parents' careers, actually. I'm a foreign service brat. So my parents are foreign service diplomats, which makes me a foreign service brat. And I just watched my parents throw diplomatic parties all over the world, essentially in every place that we lived, especially overseas. And that just opened my mind and palate to all kinds of foods and experiences at a young age. And that entertaining was fun. So that was my start in food and just that culinary journey.
Oh, wow, and I'm sure that was a very exciting experience growing up, and your parents were throwing all these big parties. I remember growing up myself, my parents would throw a couple of parties a year, and I got to try different foods because they would try different dishes, so that had to be an exciting journey for you growing up.
Yes, absolutely. Definitely exciting.
So, speaking of growing up overseas, how did that shape your approach to flavors and hospitality?
Sure. So my parents were a huge influence. I'll probably bring them up a few times during this interview. And they believed it was important for my sister and I to live out all kinds of experiences. So, of course, living overseas, you're going to be eating different foods. So it was hard even as kids to be picky, or my parents wouldn't allow us to be that picky. She and I left the nest with the love of hosting people and living internationally will always be engraved in my brain where specific flavors naturally show up in my cooking and sometimes not even realizing it. So definitely growing up internationally, my parents just had a big part of that and just food culture and everything and just living in different spots. So it definitely wasn't me doing this on my own. It was my parents' job and we were just whisked away into this world of different foods.
Absolutely. And we could talk about flavor taste. For me, growing up, I was the person that loved seafood, and a lot of kids don't like seafood. So I was a person that was experimenting even as a little girl. So I definitely identify with that, getting out there, trying new things with your parents and expanding those taste buds and those flavors. So you've also, and this is huge, you've also worked in Michelin-starred kitchens. That is huge. What lessons did you learn from those places that you worked at?
Sure. So I was working in both these restaurants for a very short time. I had the privilege of staging there. I was just looking for other jobs and interviewing. And what a stage is basically you're going into another kitchen and you're cooking for the executive chef, or you're actually cooking with the back of house for evening as the restaurant is open, and that's your interview. So it's very proactive and active interview so they can see how you work in the kitchen and with the other cooks in the kitchen as well. My passion for organization and communication, I would say, were even more shaped and confirmed my culinary identity, telling myself, okay, I'm not the only one that strives to be this organized in the kitchen, and I'm not the only one that wants to be meticulous about my dishes or the way I prep, which was truly hard to find in some kitchens I was working prior, which is why I was interested in, okay, let me see what Michelin star restaurants are like. And being in there was really eye opening. And the only reason I didn't accept jobs was just the hours were really crazy to say the least. It was a really awesome experience. Both experiences were about 10-hour days. I absolutely loved the experience, but at the end of the day, being told, okay, you're going to be working from 2 p.m. to 2 a.m. was not something that what's gonna work with the balance I wanted to have with work and life.
Oh, wow, and I woulda never thought that they had chefs working 10 hours. Shifts, like,
10 hours.
wow, that is crazy. Now, let's talk about because now you shifted over to hosting supper club events. How did you decide to start hosting supper club events, and what was the original vision behind them?
Sure. My love of hosting, a bit of kitchen hopping essentially. And I didn't want to leave the culinary field altogether, but that I love feeding others, especially I would like to entertain outside of work. I'd like to throw parties and things like that with 20 to 30 people. My one bedroom apartment, I'd have 30 people. I cook for them. I cook from scratch and things like that. But upon getting married, I we've thrown a few parties, but I wanted to narrow it down to something that was more intimate. So my supper clubs, I only host or we only host about 7 people at a time. And it just helps me to focus on my plating and being more intentional with my cooking, my food, but also being intentional with each person that comes into our home and that we cook for. So I get to speak to each and every person as opposed to just 30 people coming into the house and there's just a lot going on. I don't really get to speak to everyone. But now, especially because we're inviting in maybe even people that we don't know, 7 people allows me to really greet each and every person, remember each and every person's name, and working on my own and doing my own thing like this supper club. It allows me to curate my own menu and I can be honest. So yeah, that's why I started hosting. Yeah.
And talk about the beauty and the art of hosting because you pretty much made it a personal, intimate setting. And we have supper clubs down here in my area, but it's normally a big event that 1,000 people can attend. So I definitely like how you have set it up to be more of an intimate experience with your guests. Now, speaking of art of hosting, what are some of the challenges you face in turning that into a structured, repeatable experience for people?
Sure. And the first thing that comes to mind is getting more eyes. And our private residence address isn't out there, but it will say we'll give private resident address once the ticket is bought, sort of thing. Just having people find us and see what we're doing, a challenge, but slowly reaching out to people, collaborating with people, especially content creators and other foodies and even other supper clubs. I've met other chefs or hosts from supper clubs and asking questions. That's been really helpful for people to find us and trust us. And in the past couple of supper clubs, it's been great because we've been getting people that we don't know as opposed to just people that know us. Having those people that don't know us and experience our supper clubs speak about it or post about it, and then we're getting more eyes. Definitely, hands down, though, getting more eyes and just gaining that trust from people who don't know who we are.
Absolutely, and you said that somebody don't wanna come to somebody's house, but I'm going, y'all actually trust people to come to y'all house? That's how I'm thinking. So I had the total opposite reaction to that, and that is beautiful that you are opening up your home to the community to come in and try these new dishes, and we think about the art of hosting. Let's talk about the art of cooking because that in itself too is an art and it takes a level of creativity as well. So, how do you balance the creativity in cooking with running a business that also focuses on service and community?
So I'm definitely very blessed. My husband is very supportive. He's working a full-time job and he helps me to do this. I'm not totally alone and my husband and I helps to keep my balance. I have to remember that it's not just about the food, it's also about the people and that it's something that I'm still working on. So the balance part is it's still a work in progress. Things start out really slow, but sometimes things pick up and people are emailing with questions or we're selling out quickly for a dinner and that could be overwhelming. And then there are some days or some dinners that we won't have anyone sign up. It's really a journey and just, yeah.
Absolutely. And thank you for being an honest person because a lot of people think that when it comes to entrepreneurship, everybody's making $1 million off the doorstep. And we do have those ugly moments where nobody's buying, nobody's showing up, but that
Yeah.
doesn't mean that we give up, y'all. It just means that we go harder. So thank you for being honest and open with our audience because a lot of people really think that being an entrepreneur is all about living a glamorous lifestyle and just creating your own schedule and going on fancy trips. When in reality, y'all, we have to hustle and we have to get it out there.
Exactly.
So let's talk about strategies. What strategies have helped you stand out in a crowded food and hospitality space?
I would say the fact that we are a non-alcoholic supper club. I just don't drink that much. And so when I started this supper club, one of the first things that came to mind was I don't want to serve alcohol. I don't want to be responsible for people drinking and then driving home. This interest for non-alcoholic spirits. There's non-alcoholic wines and beers and whiskeys and all kinds of non-alcoholic spirits out there. So I was bringing those in to my supper club dinners to keep things interesting. So I wasn't just here's some soda and some water, just something else that was new, unique, and interesting. So I would say that's probably one thing that makes our business and supper club very unique. And we've been getting really great feedback in regards to the drinks that we offer as well. Oh, I didn't know this sort of thing existed. And this actually tastes like the real thing, but I feel good and I don't feel buzzed. And this is coming from people who I wouldn't say are big drinkers, but they tend to drink a bit more. They're not used to something like this that doesn't have alcohol in it. That's also something that makes our dinners just more intentional. People can come and eat and still laugh and joke and be silly and be transparent and things like that without the alcohol. But people are very slowly getting into, or at least finding out about the non-alcoholic world, non-alcoholic spirits and things like that. This is definitely something that makes Zest Supper Club very unique. Yeah.
And I absolutely love that because when you hear the word club, you automatically think alcohol. And so that's huge. And my mom's shouting right now because she's not a drinker at all. And most of these events, everywhere you go, you have to have a drink. I know some events you have to literally walk in the door and take a shot. So I absolutely love your approach. And I think it's very considerate and you show a compassion to the people that are coming to your house and thinking about them leaving and being under the influence. Anything can happen.
Yeah.
So I really truly appreciate you telling our audience because that's is huge. When you hear the word club, you automatically think alcohol. So let's talk about monetizing your work because you are a chef. How do you approach monetizing your skills beyond the supper club, though, such as when you're doing events and classes and different collaborations?
I work with another chef 2 days a week, which has been awesome. I've been with her for about a year. Her name is Chef Paula, and she has her own meal service business. And it's easy, it's an easygoing job. And I'm constantly bringing home her recipes to try for my husband and I. And then I might do something a little different with it if I want to use it for a supper club. She knows this, by the way. So she knows I take her recipes sometimes. I have to go to other events, other supper clubs, just to keep my own skills up, grow fresh ideas and everything. And even when I started, I didn't think other supper clubs really existed. So I really had to dig and Google and search on Instagram, supper club, and things started popping up. And I've gone to a few dinners, I've shadowed at one supper club in Richmond and things like that. And even my parents have traveled overseas and have found supper clubs and they've been interested in those as well. So I do this to support other businesses, but yes, it also keeps my mind and ideas flowing as far as events, going to classes maybe and just collaborations. So yeah.
Absolutely. And I love how you explain that to our audience because a lot of times when we're starting out, we're using the skills we have. But if you're an entrepreneur, you're going to continue to grow and you're going to continue to learn in whatever industry you're in. So collaboration with people that are already in your industry is key. So if you
Yeah.
think you're going to come in and just compete with everybody, then you're probably not going to pick up those skills. I firsthand collaboration is huge, is big, especially in the entrepreneur world. You're able to collaborate with others, learn new skills. Sometimes you may even find your next customer in those spaces. So thank you for highlighting the big importance of building community while being an
Yeah.
entrepreneur as well.
Yeah.
So let's talk about risk because This is something that a lot of people are scared to talk about when it comes to entrepreneurship. Can you share an example of a time you took a risk in your business or your creative choices and they actually paid off?
Not being afraid of what people think. And I want to share a word I stood on in Deuteronomy 31, which reads, "Do not fear or be in dread of them, for it is the Lord your God who goes with you," which has really helped me. Sending out emails is a risk for me. Hey, this is what I'm doing, or here's this recipe you should try, because there's that thought of, am I being annoying? Am I sending out too many emails? Am I being annoying? I must be too annoying or whatever. But the truth of the matter is, not everyone is going to read every email that you send, anyways. So it's just send it, just email it, just post it. It's important to not be afraid of that. So, not being afraid or scared, because somebody might be encouraged by it, somebody might like it or post or this email. I feel like everything that I've put out there is a risk. Even asking for help, asking other business owners for help, that's a risk. This person probably doesn't have enough time for me. They have a million followers. They're never going to respond. And then you just never know. So I've gotten past that fear and just basically not caring. I'm going to email anyway. I'm going to post it. I'm going to reach out, because you just never know. And then being prepared to not be offended for maybe what you don't expect, which is maybe silence, maybe you don't hear back or whatever. I would say, especially as an entrepreneur and trying to put yourself out there, every little thing is it's a little bit of a risk. And I just have to get past that.
Absolutely. And you hit on a lot of key aspects for entrepreneurs because for me, it was the getting on camera and talking. But how would people know who's the owner of the brand? And how would people know who they're going to be working with if you don't take that risk of putting yourself out there? And so we got a lot of scamming pages going on around here and a lot of people pretending to be people. So people are looking for that authentic you. And so I definitely identify with that. And I ended up starting up 2 podcasts. And still, I have moments where I'm like, no, I'm still not in the public speaking yet, but I'm pushing myself because you do when you're an entrepreneur, you have to put those fears to the side and get yourself out there. Emailing is another thing. A lot of people go, I don't have an email list. Just use the people that you're emailing already. Send them the message. If you
Yeah.
got a social media page and got a few people on your social media pages, ask them what their email is. Even if they don't want to give you their email, send it to them through Messenger, send it to them through their DMs. Get it out there pretty much, y'all. And don't be scared to take a risk and don't be scared of the backlash because I'm here to tell you not everybody's gonna like it, but that don't mean that you're not meant to do it. Now, speaking of being authentic, how do you maintain being authentic and having your voice in your brand while still adapting to customers' expectations?
Everyone is different, even twins. So no one is exactly the same. Everyone has something different to offer, and so do I. And I truly believe that everyone has something unique to bring to the table. Mine is my experience as a foreign service kid, which is where this is all started in the first place. And constantly, I'm like, I don't have this story. I don't have all this knowledge on this type of food or how you cook this. I compare a lot. That person doesn't have the same story as I do as far as being a foreign service brat. And even if they are a foreign service brat, they didn't live exactly the same way that I lived. I think we all have to remember that we all have something to offer. And again, even back to twins is a prime example. Identical twins might look the same, but their fingerprints are not the same. They're different. I just have to believe that I am authentic, period. I don't have to fake it or steal something that someone else is doing. You have to believe that you are a different person with different ideas. And that's something that I have to sometimes dig myself out of these holes of, I'm not good enough, or what I'm doing isn't as exciting. And I also want to mention that if you're speaking those things to yourself, they're definitely not of God. Okay. They're definitely not of God. You are authentic, and you do have something to offer. You are fearfully and wonderfully made and unique. Sorry, I don't mean for this to become a sermon, but these are the kinds of things I stand on and which help me to believe and move forward with my authenticity. Yeah.
And you say don't get you to preach no here, but I absolutely love it because as a God woman myself, I battled with that as well. And looking at the comparisons, when I originally thought about starting my podcast, I said, "Oh, it's a million different podcasts out here doing the thing, and they already
Yeah.
got a million views." However, when you have a purpose, you just have to listen to God and be obedient to the mission because, as you said, not all of us have the same story of why we originally started. And it does, we have to compete with each other. And a lot of times it is that support. So you're going out and you're supporting other supper clubs and actually finding out their true stories and what they're going through and why they originally started. That shows the not, I'm trying to compete with you side. It shows I'm letting God lead me and He's allowing me to meet people that's helping me grow and using myself again. I've interviewed several podcasters myself. So if you're just being obedient, you'll learn that it's not a competition, it's a way of growing and understanding that we all have a purpose. We all don't have to compete with each other just because we're in the same industry. Sometimes God is calling us to start that just because somebody in the community needs that and they don't identify with the other ones. So you just never know. So don't be fearful, y'all. Even if it's saturated in your area, don't be fearful of starting something because you know why you're starting it. And I promise you, in being obedient, your people will come.
Yes. Amen.
So don't hold back on that preaching because I'm a God fearing woman, and that's what I love to hear on about her business because I do. I feel like that if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you got to literally lean on your faith in it. A lot of people make it seem like it's easy, but it's not a real out here. And even your favorite people that are multimillionaires and billionaires, go back and read their stories and see how long it took them to get where they at. So it's a process, y'all. Now, let's get some
Yeah.
advice. What advice would you give women entrepreneurs that are looking to merge a passion with business in a creative field?
My advice would be never give up, never give in. I promise you that there will be hard moments, but you'll realize that if this journey is the one for you, then you'll stick with it. This isn't my first go around trying a business. Before this, I had a home bakery, and that was definitely a journey where I feel like I had imposter syndrome. Baking isn't my forte. I'd started first with a business cooking food, but then it turned into baking and everything. And that didn't go so well. And I let that go. And then I was kitchen hopping for a while and that wasn't working out. And so for a moment, I was like, cool, I'm going to separate myself from food and I'm going to try to just computer an opportunity with the chef I work with now came up. As I just dived into this supper club. And again, I wasn't baking, I was cooking. So baking is just not, I could do it, but not as a full business. So I think that find something that you feel like you can't get away from, but that you enjoy. And you'll find yourself sticking to it. And I'm very proud of myself actually just sticking with Zest Supper Club, but it's something that I do feel that I want to stick with. And that feels really nice. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And that's a very key ingredient to entrepreneurship, finding your lane. A lot of people, including myself, went out here and jumped in a million different lanes thinking I had to be this person and be that person. Who am I really? And start off because this is I started off as a social media manager. And sure enough, as I was doing social media management, I started saying to myself, what's the difference between this and a 9 to 5? Because you're technically working for somebody else and producing for someone else. So I said, no, I want something for myself. And that's how I ended up starting my own businesses because I knew I wasn't the 9 to 5 type. I just did not want to work, not necessarily work under those environments of one person gets all the credit and everybody else's work is just pretty much not even acknowledged. So my creativity when I'm working, I'm a very hard worker and I put a lot of effort and a lot of love into my work. So the reality of it was before I literally get this person promoted or get this person on the national cover or something, I go out there and do that for myself. And so that's why I took my risk and got myself out there. But that is something that a lot of entrepreneurs go through and they don't really talk about. And that's finding their real lanes and going out there and trying different lanes and finding out that those lanes don't work. It does. It helps you identify yourself and what you truly love. So
Yes.
thank you again for sharing with our audience, Chef, because that's something that's not talked about. And a lot of entrepreneurs are not admitting it. And they should, because I feel like that's another form of being authentic with your audience. Hey, I had to try different methods. I had to go different routes. I had to find out what I truly wanted to do in order to bring in you guys, my audience. That's just a great moment for me right there because I could talk about that all day, y'all. But
Yeah.
we're going to now talk about how you build your community and your relationships. How do you use community and relationships as a growth tool in your business?
I've connected with other like-minded entrepreneurs and have collaborated with them. Doing this helps both sides and work with one another, don't compete with one another. And again, mindset is always a thing that I'm working on, through this business. Because yes, don't compete with people, but then I find myself envying other people who are doing the same thing. I'm not taking things and copying from them. I'm just like, oh gosh, I can't be as good as that. And I have to change that mindset. But also what helps is reaching out and asking them questions and just being genuine and asking them questions. Hey, it looks like you're doing a really awesome job in this. What tips do you have for me? And just reaching out. And again, sometimes, again, just even back to that fear tactic, you sometimes don't get a response or get a response you don't want, but sometimes you get a response like, yeah, I'd love to talk to you about this. Let's get together and talk in person. I've gotten together in person with people I don't know that I've just reached out to who do other supper clubs, and again, shadowed another chef in her supper club and everything. So it connection really helps to find other like-minded people in your field. And it's neat to find that, because I feel like supper clubs are people think of supper clubs differently, or there's different definitions for a supper club, but I actually have found other people who are hosting outside of their home, like ticketed dinners and things like that, or doing pop-up dinners or something like that. So again, I've reached out to plenty of people again who are very popular, who've met big time chefs. And I've even reached out to other TV chefs, like well-known chefs, and haven't gotten a response. I feel like you just have to keep doing it. And eventually it's one response and you have this connection. So, I definitely, that's the first thing as far as community and relationship, and a growth tool would be to get connected with people in the same field that you're doing, and help each other, whether you think that person is better than you or more experienced than you or not. That's still a learning experience for them, and who knows what you could be doing for that other person you're collaborating with. Yeah.
Absolutely. And again, thank you for going into those details because that's another thing that a lot of people don't talk about in entrepreneurship, and that's that envy. A lot of people like, I'm a girl's girl, I'm this, I'm that, with everybody. And then next thing they're talking about everybody. So it's one of those things of where being honest, being open, you never just know what may happen from that. And as you said, going past that envy and actually going out there and talking with those chefs and trying to reach out to those top chefs, that shows, hey, I'm being myself. I'm getting past that mindset that I had, and I had to do it myself, y'all. We just being honest. There's a lot of people out here that loves to be in that girls, girls, guys, guys energy, but they're really mean people. And they're just
Mhm.
out here creating a narrative of I'm for community. And in reality, they're envious and not trying to grow or not trying to help the next person. So if
Yeah.
you're a person like that, I'm here to tell you probably gonna keep getting called out and exposed. But in growing as an entrepreneur and building community, you have to go out there, and those people that are getting in the guests, I love to compliment other podcasters and their audience. And I even tune into their episodes. And they give me tips on how to set up my podcast and great softwares I can use for editing and things like that. So you just never know until you actually step out of that comfort zone. So let's talk about we've talked about mindset shifts, and that was a very powerful mindset shift that you just went so into detail with. And once again, that's another area that I can stay on as well. What practices or mindset shifts have helped you stay empowered and inspired as both a chef and an entrepreneur?
I have to keep God in it always. And the more that I do, the more that I see God move, because there's just certain things that have happened in my work and in the business that I am now of that supper club that is just, oh, okay. That wasn't all me. So I give my thoughts and prayers to him and trust him with all my heart. I've learned that negative self-talk over my business or myself is again not of God. So, God doesn't speak to us like, your business sucks, you're doing terrible. He doesn't speak to us that way. That so I just mind, yes, sorry, thoughtfulness and the way that we think over our business, the way we speak over our business is empowering, whether it's in a positive or in a negative way. A while ago, as a matter of fact, when I was working on my previous home bakery business, I was taking this course. I was taking this course where the woman who was leading it, teaching it, one of the first things that she said when we started this course wasn't even, here's what you do with baking. It was about mindset. If you don't go into this business with the right mindset, you're not going to do well. And then she gave us a list of life speaking scripture to lean on as you went through the course. And I think that it's just living that, I see that. And I think that when you're speaking negatively over yourself, over your business, it's not even that God isn't working for you, it's just that you can't see what God is doing for you. You're blinding yourself. But once you're able to take away those blinds and those curtains and you're speaking life and you're trusting God, it opens your eyes to like, oh yeah, that was a God thing. Oh, okay, I couldn't have gotten all those seats sold because I was doing something else, but I remember I was journaling the other day, or instead of scrolling, I was praying, or whatever the case may be, or just speaking life instead of negativity. I think that's something that we really have to work on, that's been inspiring for me as a chef, as an entrepreneur, and as a person. So speak life over yourself and your business. Yeah.
Absolutely. And again, we give everything back to God. Every
Yeah.
No matter if we failing or we winning, we give it all back to God, because even in those moments where we feel like we're failing, that may be a moment of growth. Maybe God's trying to catch your attention and get you to understand, hey, this is a moment of where I need you to understand why I got you here. And choosing purpose, y'all, compared to just following in behind what society is doing, it could be hard for a lot of people. And a lot of people be looking for understanding. But I'm here to tell you, if you're willing to be obedient and just shift that mindset of negativity, oh, I ain't gonna have no money, I gotta go back to work. Oh, don't nobody really like real. If you literally think like that, I promise you, nobody will. So you really do. You got to be. I ain't gonna put religion on it, but as a God fearing person and believing in my God, I know He had me do this for a purpose, and I'm trusting Him on it, and I'm steady walking with it. And that's what you literally have to do. You just have to keep going, no matter if you're in that growth season or if you're in that successful season, because God, I'm telling you, you have to give it all back to Him, because at the end of the day, this is the real reason why you're here.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
Now, I do want to ask you, because I know a lot of people are wondering, do you do private parties? So do you do weddings or anything like that?
I haven't yet. My thing is I want to keep things intimate. Eventually, I want to start offering privates. So, a private would be someone coming to me and saying, hey, I have 6 people that I want to host at your supper club. So, that's something that I want to do. The thing about it is, I want to keep it actually here in our home. So I'm still trying to figure that out, but again, I want to keep it small. I know eventually we want to host 10 people. Right now we're hosting 7, and 10 people will be our top. Not going too far ahead of this conversation. If God willing, we get a small space to host somewhere else, the amount of people we would host is 10 people. Because again, I love the intimacy. So even if we were to do privates, I would want to keep it. So weddings, it depends. Obviously, if it's like a wedding dinner and it's the bride and her 6 maids of honors or flower girls or whoever they are, hosting them would be great. I just don't, it's not really in my interests, honestly, to cater for 50, 60 people. I've done it before, but a while ago. But now, since okay, I love this intimacy, I want to keep it intimate. This is where I could be more intentional with my plates and things like that and more personable with each guest. That's how I want to keep it. So eventually, yes, but yeah, it's just the keeping it small part and finding that audience or those people who also want to, oh yeah, I definitely want to keep it intimate. I have a handful of friends that I just, want to do this with. Yeah.
And I love how she said that. She was like, that's just not my interest to have 60, 70 people I'm catering to. I love how you want to keep it intimate because when we think about a lot of these spaces and networking events, that's what holds a lot of the networking back because there's so many people in the room. So
Right.
I absolutely love your approach and that you're sticking to that approach because it's a very nice environment to be in and you get to meet a lot of people. You get to meet the people in the room and you get to network, collaborate, do whatever it is that you know you're interested in, but without having to feel like you got 90,000 other people looking over your shoulder at the same time. Now, sadly, we've come to the end of today's episode, but we always leave with a legacy. And I give you a couple of moments to think about this. Looking ahead, what legacy do you hope to leave through your culinary work and community impact?
First, I hope people see God and love in this. Like you had mentioned as well, we give everything back to him. So just all glory to God. What I'm doing is because of him. Where I'm at personally and career-wise, it is because of God. And small spaces are safe spaces. So I know personally I don't do so well in crowds anymore. Maybe it's because I'm getting older. I don't know, but that's also one of the reasons why I host small. And for me, going to large events, especially if I'm going on my own, I know that networking events where there's 50 people, I shy out. I'm a wallflower. I'm in the corner, and then I'm like, all right, get me out of here. I'm overwhelmed. I'm like, I don't feel comfortable. So small spaces are safe spaces, and you don't need alcohol to have a good time. That's also a legacy I'd want to leave. And also, my dishes are meant to be approachable, which means if someone were to ask me for a recipe, I could give it to them and they could make it. Michelin-star restaurants are beautiful and they're great, but sometimes, especially for someone that wants to cook at home, may not be able to bring cauliflower foam to their kitchen or something. My dishes are beautifully plated, yes, and delicious, yes, but you'd be surprised at how I focus on real ingredients and just stuff that you already have in your kitchen. And basically, just plating at home is just a fun thing to do to make you feel like you're in a restaurant, but at home. And I hope more people leave inspired to cook good food at home as well. Just like some examples of one of my dishes is at a few of my supper clubs now I've done a roasted carrot dish with a kale pesto, and people have been really surprised at how good carrots can be. And that sounds so basic, but the reaction I've gotten on this carrot dish has been like, whoa. So just as simple as that. Yeah, go get some carrots, roast them, season them up real good, make this easy kale pesto. It's healthy, it's good and delicious, plate it nice. It's just easy to take home. So that's also something that I'm working on. But first and foremost, yeah, those are like the points right there as far as leaving a legacy, hoping people will see God and love in this, and that people can have fun and a good time without alcohol, and that they can cook at home too.
You know, a lot of people don't think again when we think club, we think alcohol, but you can have a good time without alcohol and you can have a good time without drugs, y'all. So I'm here to tell you That is a great legacy to leave behind. Now, sadly, we've come to the end of today's episode, but before we go, we're going to make sure we get all Miss Dot Turner's information. Please let us know where your next event is. Let us know where we can find you. Let us know all the details.
So we actually have our first pop-up actually in Washington, D.C. It's at a pop-up, it's a pop-up dinner, and it's Saturday, June 27th, I believe, at this cute little Brazilian coffee shop called Alelo Coffee. And again, it's very intimate. We're only seating 7 people and tickets are up. So gosh, that will also be our 1 year anniversary slash first pop-up dinner, which we really hope to be doing more of. So please come. And also you can find me simply at Zest Supper Club on Instagram. And I also have a link on there where you can sign up for our guest list to receive emails and updates, and you'll be the first one to receive chances to buy tickets for our dinners and everything. And I'm always planning. So already planning for July. July is in the works, and I actually just came back from Paris, and so I'm planning a Paris themed supper club probably for the fall. Yeah, a lot of stuff going on, but in the nearsighted, please come to our first dinner pop-up in June 27th at Aleo Coffee in Washington, D.C.
Absolutely. And I will be leaving all that information down in the description box. And this episode should air before that June's event, you guys. So I will make sure I get all the information for you guys. Any last words before we adjourn today's meeting?
Thank you very much for having me. This was such a pleasure, just so exciting. And I'm just finding that I like talking about what I'm doing, but I also love talking about God and sharing that. Just thank you for listening, and don't hesitate to reach out to me. I will definitely reach back. Yeah.
Absolutely. And y'all, I'm telling you, got to keep God with you on that journey. And with that, ladies, today's meeting is now adjourned. Thanks again to chef, host, and culinary director of the Zest Supper Club, Ms. Zaria Elaine Stott Turner, for coming on and offering her insights. And you be sure to subscribe to About Her Business wherever you receive podcasts so you never miss whenever we upload. Also, leave me some comments down in that comment section on which industry you think I should interview next. Until next time, keep those goals tight, that circle tighter, and that bank account growing.